deep in the American wilderness, where autumn leaves fall like the last whispers of hope. A pregnant mother is running for her life. But what exactly is she running from? A failed marriage? Or a terrifying secret her ex-husband would kill to protect? If the man who once promised to love you suddenly wants to take your unborn child away, would you fight back or disappear into the shadows? And the dog by her side, Max, is he just a loyal German shepherd, or the only one who truly knows the danger closing in? Why was the cabin they found in the woods once engulfed in flames? Who lived there before? And why did they never return? When the fire of the past starts burning again, who will survive long enough to tell the truth? This is more than a desperate escape. It's a mother's battle for love, for justice, and for her child's life. Before we begin, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and leave a like. Your support truly means the world to us. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. The last leaves of autumn clung to the trees of pine wood, trembling in a cold mountain wind, as if even nature was afraid to let go. In a small, temporary housing cabin provided by local authorities, Grace Walker, 29 years old and 8 months pregnant, stood by a cracked window, watching dusk swallow the sky. Grace had once been a vibrant woman, average height, soft freckles across pale skin, long chestnut brown hair that curled when wet, and hazel eyes that used to sparkle when she talked about the future. But the future now, it terrified her. Her hands, once steady, trembled as she pulled a thin blanket tighter around herself and her swollen belly. She tried to breathe slow, as her therapist taught her years ago when anxiety first crept into her life after childhood loss. But tonight, the breaths came shallow and shaky. Inside the cabin, scratching quietly at the wood floor, was Max, a 4-year-old German shepherd with a sable black coat and intelligent amber eyes. His left ear bent slightly at the tip, a remnant of an old police training injury. Yet somehow it made him look both fierce and endearing at once. Max was incredibly loyal, trained to guard and protect, but tender in ways only a creature who understood pain could be. Grace knelt with difficulty, rubbing the fur around his neck. "You're all I have left," she whispered, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Max nuzzled her chin as if telling her she would never be alone, not while he was here. Just weeks ago, Grace lived a different life. A suburban home, a nursery painted in soft yellow, a husband, Ryan Walker, who at first seemed charming, devoted, ambitious. Ryan, a tall man with striking dark hair always slicked back into perfection, sharp cheekbones and cold steel blue eyes, had a presence that demanded attention. He worked in real estate development and cared deeply about appearances, too deeply. When he smiled for others, dimples formed, and everyone believed he was the perfect husband. Grace did too, until she caught him late one night, whispering to someone on the phone, voice laced with venom. "That baby can't exist." She remembered demanding an explanation. He gave her cold silence, and the next morning he was gone, leaving her with a divorce paper slapped on the kitchen table like a scar. Now Grace stood alone, except for Max, in this worn-down shelter cabin that smelled of damp wood and fading hope. Loneliness pressed against her ribs like something physical. She often wondered if she had done something unforgivable to deserve being abandoned while carrying life inside her. "Maybe I wasn't enough," she admitted to herself, voice trembling. But then she placed a protective hand on her belly. No, the child was enough. The child was everything. A sudden arrest rattled the windows, and Max's ears shot up. He paced toward the door, growling low in his throat. Grace frowned. "What is it, boy?" A strange smell reached her nose, sharper than wood, harsher than autumn. Smoke. At first, she thought maybe it drifted from a neighbor's fireplace, but then she noticed the cabin walls glowing faintly orange. Before she could think, fire erupted along the outside wall, flames licking the wooden siding and racing upward like hungry beasts. "Oh, God!" she gasped, clutching her stomach as heat surged around them. Max barked wildly, grabbing the sleeve of her jacket with his strong jaw and pulling. He dragged her toward the back door, muscles taut with urgency. Grace stumbled, coughing, vision blurring from the thick smoke curling through every crevice. Her heart hammered, fear not only for herself, but for the tiny heartbeat inside her. She forced her legs to move faster. "We have to get out. We have to." They crashed through the back exit seconds before part of the roof collapsed with a roar behind them. The freezing night air slammed into her lungs. She fell to her knees, coughing violently. Max circled her protectively. When Grace finally lifted her head, tears streamed down her soot-marked cheeks as she stared at the inferno that had been her shelter. The flames reflected in her eyes, turning them golden and fearful. That wasn't an accident. As the fire raged, she saw a shadowed figure stepping away into the trees. A tall man, shoulders stiff, gait painfully familiar. Her voice broke into a whisper only Max heard. "Ryan?" Max barked in the same direction, deep and furious, as if confirming the unspoken truth. Someone wanted them gone, wanted her gone, wanted the baby gone. Panic flooded her chest. Grace staggered upright, Max pressing against her leg to hold her steady. There was nothing left behind them. No home, no safety, no help. Only the dark forest ahead. With trembling resolve and silent terror, Grace stepped off the gravel path and into the black woods. Max leading, the fire roaring behind them like a warning from hell. With each step deeper into the night, one thought consumed her. If Ryan could burn down one home, what would he do next? Grace Walker woke to a thin blade of cold sunlight cutting through the dense canopy overhead, slicing directly across her eyelids. Her body ached from lying on damp ground all night. Every muscle protested as she tried to sit up, one hand instinctively clutching her rounded belly. The forest around them crackled with early morning frost, still holding the chill of the night before. It was almost beautiful, if beauty could exist in the aftermath of fear. Max, her loyal German shepherd, paced around her with protective circles, his fur dusted with fallen maple leaves. He nudged her shoulder, gently, but insisted she get up with a firm bark. His amber eyes scanned the forest, alert for danger. Grace rubbed her stomach, whispering to the small life inside her. "We're okay. We made it," she breathed, though she barely believed it. But being alive didn't erase the terror. Fire. Smoke. Ryan. The thought of her ex-husband, his cold stare, his hatred, stabbed her like ice. What if he was still hunting them? What if he was already near? Grace forced herself to stand. She couldn't let fear paralyze her. Not now. Not when Noah had no one but her. Max suddenly froze, nose lifted, sniffing sharply. Without waiting, he trotted forward onto a barely visible path blanketed in orange leaves. Grace hesitated. What if it led nowhere? But Max wouldn't lead her wrong. She followed, each step slow and heavy, branches grabbing at her clothes as if trying to pull her back. After what felt like forever, the trees parted into a small clearing. And there it stood, a cabin, aged and sunken slightly to one side, like it had been waiting far too long. Weather-beaten wood, chipped green shutters, moss creeping up the stone chimney. Vines strangled the railing of a porch, barely holding together. Grace stared, breath caught in her throat. Salvation, or something else? Max tugged her forward again, eager and confident. They climbed the creaking steps. Grace pushed open the front door. It resisted, then groaned open as if releasing secrets trapped for decades. The interior smelled of dust and memory. Light struggled through grimy windows, revealing a living room frozen in time. A stone fireplace coated with moss, faded floral curtains, and a wooden table with one leg uneven, causing it to tilt like a drunken relic. On the mantel above the fireplace were framed photographs, a cheerful couple from another lifetime, a smiling man in flannel with an easy grin and gentle eyes, and a woman with curly blonde hair holding a newborn. Happiness captured before something went wrong. Grace ran her trembling fingers across the frames. "Where are they now?" she whispered. Max's growl rumbled low. His nails scratched the wooden floor, tracing a trail of strange soot stains leading behind the fireplace. Grace bent closer. Burn marks. Old, but real. Had this place burned once before? Just like her temporary home last night? A chill stabbed her spine. She needed to focus. She searched the room quickly, checking doors, corners, windows. The cabin was small. One living area, a kitchenette with rusty pans, a loft reachable by rickety steps. No signs of current life. Or so she hoped. Under the table, her eyes caught something carved into the wood. She crouched, carefully. The house of the betrayed. Her pulse thundered. Betrayed. The word echoed like a cruel joke. Was this place made for people like her? Or a warning for what she would become? Max barked twice near an object tucked beneath a torn blanket. A steel lockbox etched with a maple leaf emblem. Heavy. Locked. Secretive. Grace's first instinct was caution. Her second was desperation. "Maybe something here can help us," she muttered. But before she could investigate further, a sharp pain shot through her abdomen. Her breath caught. Not now. Not here. She'd been warned about stress triggering early labor. Cold sweat drenched her as she leaned on the fireplace for support. Max whined anxiously, circling her, licking her hands. "I'm okay. I'm okay. I think," she lied, tears pressing behind her eyes. She inhaled sharply and looked around the cabin again, searching for any sign of danger. That's when she noticed it. The hinges on the front door. They were recently oiled. Not old. Not rusted. Someone had been here. Not long ago. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She grabbed Max's collar to steady herself. If this cabin once belonged to the betrayed, maybe the betrayer knew exactly where to find it. A distant snap of a twig cut through the silence, too deliberate to be an animal. Max bristled, positioning himself between Grace and the door, a silent promise that he would die before letting harm reach her or the unborn child? Grace held her belly tight. Someone was out there. Someone who knew this cabin. Someone who wanted to finish what the fire started. Wind roared outside the cabin, as if the forest itself was warning her that this moment was dangerous. Grace Walker gripped the edge of the wooden table so hard her knuckles turned white. The contractions came like lightning, sharp, frequent, unstoppable. Sweat dampened her forehead, her chestnut brown hair sticking to her skin as she tried to breathe through pain so intense she thought she might tear apart. Her loyal German shepherd, Max, rushed frantically around the room. The 4-year-old canine, muscular and alert with a sable black coat, understood something was happening, something urgent. He found a dusty blanket in the corner, shook it vigorously, and dragged it toward Grace. She almost laughed through her agony. "Good boy," she whispered shakily. "Better than leaves." The cabin groaned as wind battered its sides. Grace looked up at the loft stairs. She considered trying to reach the softer floor up there, but standing seemed impossible, let alone climbing. She sank to her knees, clutching her belly as another wave of pain shot through her spine. She had dreamed of giving birth in a warm hospital room, nurses helping, Ryan holding her hand, back when she believed he loved her. Now she was alone in a stranger's abandoned cabin with only fear and a fiercely devoted dog to guide her through the most vulnerable moment of her life. A tear slipped down her cheek, not from pain, but from grief. She felt cheated. This was supposed to be beautiful. Instead, it felt like survival. Mac licked her hand and pressed his body against her, offering warmth. She stroked between his ears. "Don't leave me, okay?" Max responded with a soft whine and stayed rooted by her side. Outside, pine branches scraped like skeletal fingers against the walls. Grace screamed again as the contraction peaked. She pushed with everything she had left. And then, suddenly, a cry. A tiny, wailing cry filled the cabin, drowning out the storm. It was the most beautiful sound Grace had ever heard. The world blurred with tears as she lifted her newborn son into her arms. His skin was pink and soft, his eyes squeezed shut, a small tuft of dark hair plastered to his head. He flailed tiny fists, announcing his arrival, like he already knew he had a fight ahead of him. Grace kissed his forehead, her voice a trembling whisper. "Noah? Your name is Noah." It had been the name she always hoped for, the name of a survivor, a name belonging to someone destined for a second chance, for a brief, fragile moment Nothing else mattered. In that cabin filled with dust and sorrow, hope was born again. But then, reality struck. Her phone vibrated in her coat pocket, a shrill ring cutting through the air like a knife. Grace's heart stopped. With one hand cradling Noah and the other shaking violently, she unlocked the screen. Ryan Walker. Her blood ran cold. She answered with a terrified whisper, "How did you—" Ryan's voice was ice. "Grace, I know where you are, and I'm coming for my son." His tone wasn't angry. It was controlled, transactional, like he was talking about a package, not a child. "He is not your property," Grace hissed through clenched teeth. Ryan chuckled, a chilling, casual sound. "You have 1 hour, then I take him. And I won't ask nicely again." The call ended. Grace's entire body trembled, not from exhaustion anymore, but from terror. She held Noah closer, as if she could fold him into herself again, to protect him. Max growled deep in his throat, staring at the windows, as if he already sensed movement in the shadows. His muscles coiled, ready to defend. Grace staggered to her feet, cradling Noah, the umbilical cord now tied off with a piece of torn cloth. Her mind raced. She needed to escape. But how? She could barely walk. Her body was still shaking from labor. If she ran now, she could fall. Drop Noah. She squeezed her eyes shut, feeling trapped. "Please. Someone help me," she whispered into the dim room. That's when Max suddenly barked at the fireplace, loud, fierce, relentless. Grace jumped. "What is it?" she breathed. Max scratched the floor again, desperate and insistent. Grace remembered the soot marks from earlier, burn marks that hinted at a fire long ago. Something was hidden beneath this cabin. Something someone didn't want discovered. She knelt, adjusting Noah against her chest, and reached for the loose seam she had noticed before. Her fingers shook as she tugged. The floorboard shifted, revealing darkness below. A secret? A way out? Or a deeper trap? Before she could decide, Max whipped his head toward the door. The wind stopped suddenly, as if the entire forest was holding its breath. Crunch. A single leaf crushed beneath a boot. Someone was outside. Grace's pulse raced wildly. Her eyes locked on the door handle as it began to slowly, quietly twist. Max's growl rose into a savage snarl, his hackles bristling like quills. Grace held Noah tight against her chest and backed toward the opening beneath the fireplace, one thought screaming through her mind. If they found her, she and Noah were as good as dead. Grace Walker's pulse hammered so violently she feared Ryan could hear it. Noah whimpered against her chest, sensing the tension and the danger that entered with the cold air. Max positioned himself between Grace and the intruders, his teeth bared, his low growl vibrating like a warning from an ancient guardian. Ryan's silhouette filled the cabin doorway, tall and broad-shouldered, his polished shoes absurdly clean compared to the dirt-streaked world Grace had survived through. His dark hair was perfectly groomed, not a strand out of place, an intentional performance of control. Every inch of him screamed power, money, and the kind of cruelty that liked to watch others kneel. Beside him, Vanessa Cole, his attorney, flipped a pen casually between her fingers. Vanessa was a woman carved of angles, sharp cheekbones, sharp tongue, sharp ambitions. Her thin lips curved in a smirk of someone who never let morality interfere with a paycheck. Her dark suit had not a wrinkle, even here in the wilderness. The last to enter was the private security guard, Colby Nash, a thickly built man in his late 40s, with a rough beard peppered with gray. A jagged rouge-bois sliced from the corner of his mouth to his chin, and his right ear was missing the top curve. Battle souvenirs from a life enforcing the orders of others. His eyes were empty. Not evil, not kind, just void. A man who didn't care who got hurt, as long as the paycheck cleared. Vanessa's voice sliced through the tension. You see, Grace, you're trespassing. This cabin is registered as property of Walker Investments. We're here to reclaim what belongs to my client. Grace tightened her grip on Noah. He belongs to no one but me. He's my son. Ryan stepped closer, smiling with that unnerving gentleness he used to seduce trust. Grace, love, I've been patient, but you've shown repeatedly that you're incapable of making rational decisions. His gaze drifted down to Noah. Give him to me. Max lunged forward with a snarl, and Colby's gun was immediately drawn, the barrel pointed directly at the dog's head. Grace gasped. No, don't hurt him. Colby didn't blink. Call your mutt off, he growled, his voice gravelly, like stones dragged across metal. Grace whispered fiercely to Max, Stay. He obeyed, but his entire body shook with the urge to tear into the man threatening his family. Ryan sighed, as if disappointed he had to escalate things. He reached into his coat and pulled out a silver lighter, flicking it open with a calm click. The flame danced wickedly in the dim cabin. Grace's blood turned to ice. No, please. Ryan's eyes gleamed. Fires are very efficient, Grace. You should know that by now. He flicked his wrist, splashing gasoline from a metal can Colby now held onto the floorboards. The smell hit the air, sharp, chemical, terrifying. Vanessa stepped back neatly, as though stepping out of the splash zone of a street puddle rather than premeditated murder. Grace's legs shook, but something inside her snapped into place. Not fear, not panic, but defiance. She locked eyes with Ryan. If you burn this place, if you hurt us, you won't just be a criminal. Everyone will know the truth. She gestured subtly toward the hidden hatch, now slightly ajar under the fireplace. Everything you've done, all the children you sold, it's all here. Ryan's smile faltered for the first time. Vanessa looked sharply at the floor. What documents? Too late. Ryan lunged toward the hatch, but Max exploded forward, teeth sinking into the thick fabric of Ryan's coat sleeve and yanking him sideways. Ryan bellowed in rage. Colby fired. The gunshot shattered the room. Wood splintered near Max's ribs as the bullet missed by inches. Noah screamed, his first cry of true fear in the world. Grace's instincts roared to life. She ran. With trembling legs and adrenaline-fueled terror, she dashed past Colby, clutching Noah to her chest. Max darted after her. Colby raised the gun again. Vanessa grabbed his arm. Not the baby. We need the baby. Grace didn't look back. She flung herself through the narrow bathroom window, glass cracking and tearing her jacket and skin. Max barreled after her, landing in the mud at her feet. Behind them, Ryan screamed Grace's name as fire caught the gasoline he had spilled. The cabin ignited with terrifying speed. Flames leapt into the night sky like a demon unleashed. Grace ran into the forest, lungs burning, Noah crying against her heaving chest. She didn't know where she was going, only who she had to protect. Branches whipped her face. The cold ground nearly stole her footing. Max stayed pressed against her side, guiding her deeper into darkness. Behind them, the cabin roared and cracked, a structure of secrets becoming a pyre of truth. Suddenly, a voice from the left, urgent, female, unfamiliar. Over here! Hurry! Grace skidded to a stop. A woman emerged from behind a tree, a park ranger's uniform, dirtied and torn. Long brunette hair pulled back, green eyes sharp with determination. A deep scratch cut across her cheek. She held a flashlight in one hand, a radio in the other. The name's Harper Green, Pinewood Search and Rescue. I heard the explosion. Come with me if you want to live. Grace hesitated, heart racing. Trusting strangers had destroyed her once, but trusting no one would destroy Noah. Max barked once, firm. A decision. Grace followed Harper into the dark woods. Fire behind them. Enemies hunting them. a newborn's life in her arms, and one desperate whisper in her head. Please let this be the right choice. Grace Walker ran through the forest, breath burning in her lungs, clutching baby Noah as if her heartbeat alone could shield him from the world. Max stayed pressed against her leg, silent now, deadly focused. Behind them, the cabin consumed itself in a fury of flames and collapsing beams. The fire Ryan ignited was now a beacon, one that could bring help or danger. Harper Green, the park ranger who had appeared like a miracle, guided Grace through the thick underbrush. Harper was in her early 30s, tall and athletic, with long brunette hair tied in a tactical braid. A faded scar ran along her right cheek, a souvenir from a rescue mission gone wrong years ago. Her green eyes held both toughness and empathy, like someone who had once been saved herself and had sworn to pay that gift forward. We're almost to the road, Harper said, breath steady despite the chaos. I called the sheriff. Backup is coming. Grace stumbled, exhausted, and Harper grabbed her arm to steady her. You're safe now, Harper promised. Grace wanted to believe that so badly it hurt. But a gunshot shattered the illusion. Bark splintered from a tree inches from Grace's head. Ryan's voice cut through the dark, wild with rage. Grace, give me my son. Colby Nash, the stone-eyed security guard, emerged through the trees, pistol raised. His heavy boots pounded the ground, each step confident and cruel. Vanessa Cole followed, clutching the briefcase of forged legal documents like they were more valuable than any life. Max lunged forward, barking explosively, drawing Colby's aim away from Grace and Noah. Harper moved faster. She drew her service revolver and fired a warning shot that echoed through the mountains. Drop the weapon, Harper commanded, voice a trained blade. This ends now. Colby sneered, unfazed. You have no idea who you're dealing with. But another voice answered from the trees, firm, carrying authority. I do. Sheriff Daniel Brooks stepped into the clearing, weapon drawn. He was in his late 40s, tall, with a broad chest, and salt and pepper hair cropped short. His face bore years of seeing the good and worst of people, but his deep brown eyes were unwavering with justice. 2 deputies flanked him, flashlights cutting through the shadows like judgment. Colby Nash, drop the firearm, the sheriff ordered. Colby hesitated. Then Max leapt, jaws locking onto his wrist. The gun clattered to the dirt. Deputies surged forward, tackling him. Vanessa attempted to flee, but Harper slammed her to the earth with a swift, practiced move. Lawyer or not, you're done. Ryan Walker stood alone now, breathing ragged, desperation cracking his polished mask. His coat sleeve was shredded from Max's earlier bite, hair disheveled, eyes unhinged. He took a single step toward Grace. "Grace, please. Noah needs me." Grace hugged her newborn tighter. Through fatigue and fear, strength rose in her voice. "He needs love. Something you will never understand." Ryan's face twisted into a snarl, not of power, but defeat. The sheriff moved in, cuffing him with satisfying clicks of metal. Ryan barely fought. Without control, he was nothing. "You can't do this," he shouted. "You'll never prove anything." Grace lifted her chin. "We already did." Deputies retrieved the files from the burning cabin's hidden cellar. Papers, photos, letters. Proof of trafficking, proof of violence, proof of babies stolen and sold like property. Grace's voice trembled with broken pride. "Ethan, Ryan, whatever name you used, your crimes end here." He stared back at her, finally recognizing who he had underestimated. A mother who refused to surrender. And Max, standing proudly at her side like a knight of fur and fangs. Hours later, sunrise painted the sky golden. Grace sat on the back bumper of a rescue truck, a warm blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Noah slept peacefully now, safe and fed. Max lay beside her, head in her lap, finally calm. The sheriff approached with Harper beside him. "Miss Walker," he said, his tone gentler, "we're contacting Child Protective Services, not to take Noah from you, but to ensure you both get safe housing, medical care, and legal protection. And for what it's worth, you're one of the bravest people I've ever met." Grace smiled weakly, overwhelmed. "I didn't feel brave. I just couldn't let him win." "That's bravery," Harper replied, her green eyes soft. "Not the absence of fear, but choosing love anyway." Grace looked down at Noah, then at Max, who wagged his tail once as if agreeing wholeheartedly. For the first time in months, she felt hope, real, solid hope, take root inside her. She had a future. She had a family. She had won. And as the sun rose above Pinewood, warm and full of promise, Grace whispered the truth she had fought so hard to reach. We're home now, in a world that can feel frightening, where betrayal and darkness sometimes walk beside us. Tonight, we remember something deeply important. God never abandons His children. Grace didn't survive because she was strong. She survived because love is stronger than fear. Because a loyal friend stood between her and danger. And because God sent help right when she needed it most. Maybe you've felt lost like Grace. Maybe your heart has been broken. Maybe the road ahead feels cold and lonely, but miracles still happen, often quietly, through the people and animals God places in our lives. A helping hand, a loyal companion, a stranger who appears at just the right time. If you believe that love and faith can change a life, if you believe every child deserves protection and every mother deserves hope, then please share this story to bring strength to someone who needs it. Comment your thoughts or your own miracle below, and subscribe to stay with us on every journey of courage, loyalty, and God's grace. May the Lord watch over you and your family tonight. May He protect every mother and every child, and may He bless all who choose love over fear. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next story, where hope always wins.